Hello everyone. Thanks for coming along. Hope you're having a good day at East by Southeast. Today I'm going to give you a little talk about how your customers know your faults, but the question is, do you? Or rather, how do we remove the obstacles that cost you sales? So just quickly a little bit about Usability. We're a proud Essex business. And we're based in Danbury. We're here to help other businesses in Essex and beyond. And we were created to rid the world of bad website experiences. We kept getting frustrated with websites that were annoying and hard to use. Time and time again, we're finding websites with tiny buttons that you can't click, unclear product information, unhelpful error messages, pop-ups that keep getting in the way just as you're trying to buy something. Now, of course, no one sets out to launch an unusable, annoying website, and no one sets out to push their customers into the arms of their competitors, but it happens more often than you think. And so we created a suite of services to help businesses eliminate all these customer pain points and turn those hard-won website visitors into sales or leads. So our team have decades of experience working across user experience, helping businesses eliminate those customer pain points. And today I'll show you how we do it. And I'll run through why you should do it too, and 3 easy steps for you to get started. So let me ask you a question. What did you do the last time you found a website hard to use? Now, what did you do when you kept typing in the information but the website wouldn't accept it? What about the time you're ready to buy something but something happened that made you lose trust in the website? Whatever you did do, it probably wasn't good for the business whose website you were visiting. Now, as businesses, you spend a lot of money marketing your website and optimizing them for search. But it's no good driving traffic to your website if it is the equivalent of a rude and grumpy salesman and puts people off. So let's look at what can go wrong. One of the things we do is usability testing, which is testing websites with real people to identify those pain points. Now, when we do this, we normally record the session. One, it's a really good way of sharing what happened, but also some of the things you wouldn't believe people would do unless you actually had it on video. For the next few minutes, I'm going to show you three quick case studies of testing we've done. And some of these are on websites that have had a lot of money spent on them. Right, first up, let's have a look at Audible. Now, you may use Audible. It's the biggest audiobook website in the world. It's owned by Amazon, and it's a big website, has lots of money spent on it. So here we had a test with a mum who had a new phone, and she was looking simply to log into her existing account. She already had an account, new phone, needed to log in. You'd think that would be easy, wouldn't you? Now, what actually happened was, so she opened the website on her phone, and you might spot here, there's a little sign-in link, but it's not immediately obvious. And our mum didn't. What happened was she started scrolling around trying to find it. She saw these buttons that said start your 30-day free trial, and there's another one, there's another one. Eventually, and this is all condensed in time, she searched for it. She searched for the login. She found some books about logins. Who knew that was a thing? But she couldn't find out how to log in. Now, eventually, after browsing around for several minutes, she spotted this big button at the top and clicked it, and was able to sign in and enjoy her audiobooks. Now, there are some significant problems here. One is these orange buttons everywhere. They all say start your 30-day free trial. There is nothing wrong with that. That is clearly what the website's there to do. But there are so many of them, once you've decided that's not what you want to do, you start to ignore all orange buttons. So when you do stumble across an orange button with the thing you want, you actually miss it. The other thing is that this doesn't even look like a link. Links have underlines, right? that link for sign in looked exactly like all the other text. And eventually you become button blind. And what could have happened in this case is our mum here could have given up on Audible and Amazon could have lost a customer. Our next example is another Amazon site, actually, the Kindle app. Now, Kindle have a nice app on the iPhone, allows you to read ebooks, and you may have done this yourself. And one of the nice things about the ebooks is you can actually make notes, which if you're a student is very handy. Now, in this example, we have our student, and we tasked him with finding the notes he'd made in a book he previously read. He just happened to be on the train to make it more authentic. So you'd think this would be fairly easy, right? But it wasn't. So if you're in the Kindle app on an iPhone, and this is the book he's looking for, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Cialdini, which I'm sure some of you have read, very good book, but he hasn't got it downloaded. So he's clicking it, trying to get it to download. And all it does, it keeps saying, tap to retry, tap to retry. And he doesn't know what to do. He thinks it's his signal. He's on the train, so he tries to attach to the train Wi-Fi, thinking that would be it. What he doesn't realise is that it had nothing to do with that. And then he starts to download, tries to download it again, and he gets an error message. And what he doesn't realise is he's actually on the library screen before he was on the home screen. But he has this error message which says you've exceeded the limit. You can either deregister a device or you can buy another copy. And he is not going to buy another copy of this book. It's good, but he doesn't need 2 copies. Now, eventually he goes, OK, I'll deregister a device. He has to resort to Googling that to find out how to do it because it's not obvious within the app. Once he Googles it, he finds out he actually has to do it on a desktop computer because you can't do it on a mobile. So this is no good to him on the train. And this is a very common issue. So first of all, there's 2 things here. One, the home screen and the library screen look very similar, but they behave differently. They have different error messages or no error messages at all. And what's our user going to do? Is he going to keep using the Kindle app or is he going to go to one of their competitors? All right, and our next example, a bit closer to home, this one. So good old Riverside, those Chelmsford based will know this place well. All been beautifully renovated. And what we set our user here as a task to find out, was the splash pool open on a Sunday? How much does it cost and where do I park? This is a dad with his 4-year-old son just using his laptop on the sofa. And you'd think, again, this would be easy, but it actually took over 11 minutes. To start with, he spots a session, but doesn't recognise that it's actually closed, which is an issue. What we found when we tested this is there's this wonderful search filter facility, but no user ever spotted it. And what's worse is actually behind in this space on smaller screens, there's an even more advanced filter, which doesn't even display if you're using this kind of size screen. Eventually, though, our dad perseveres and he does find a session at 12:30. Then the next challenge is finding parking. Now, I've sped all this up because it took something like 6 minutes for him to find the information. He searches, he scrolls up and down. He tries all kinds of tactics to find it. Eventually, he does actually find the information. Here it is. He can park for a couple of hours on a Sunday. Then he's happy. He thinks it's the search that's at fault, but it's not. The search is actually hidden behind these menu bars. And what's worse is the actual answer is the right answer. The search works really well. It's just you can't see it because it's hidden behind this cookie banner, which is also hidden behind the menus. And this is costing, it's these kind of errors which are costing businesses money. Right, so why does this happen? Well, one of the reasons is that these websites haven't always been tested with users, right? That's a simple thing. The other is that it's these people, humans. Humans are unpredictable. Yeah, we all solve problems in a different way. We all see the world differently. We have different experience, levels of confidence and competence and expectations. So if you have a website, it's for people to use, right? And so it's the people who use your website that are critical to its success. And we put a lot of effort into designing our websites, but if you don't test it with people, you won't understand what they actually will do. Let me illustrate. So in this example, we have a path which is designed, and then we have the evidence of what people actually do. You know, a wise friend told me this saying: "Don't build the paths where you want people to walk. Instead, watch where they walk and build the paths there." And the same is true of websites. This is what usability testing actually finds out, and it helps you avoid building the wrong thing or making expensive mistakes. Let's look at another example. People always do the unexpected. Always. So let's imagine we're opening a new coffee shop and we're testing the system. And these are some very sensible things to run through. Order a coffee, order combinations of coffee, change the order, cancel it, take a payment, and so on. As soon as you open the doors and let real people in, though, first thing they want is the toilet. And that might not be something you're prepared for. Example, why don't we always test? Now, if you design something, it's quite hard to see it ripped apart, and this video is quite a good example of that.
This is a square. Can you guess which spot that goes in?
The square.
That's right. It goes in the square hole.
Yes. Okay.
And how about this rectangle? That one
also the square.
That goes in there too.
Yeah.
Up next, we've got this thin rectangle.
The thin rectangle.
Can you guess where that goes?
The thin rectangle.
That's right. It goes in the square hole. And up next, a cylinder.
The circle.
I think that goes in
the circle.
The square hole. Now, we've also got the semicircle right here. Do you see a slot that would fit
the semicircle?
Semicircle?
The semicircle.
That's right. It's the square hole. Okay. Up next, the triangle. We know what hole that goes into,
triangle.
Right?
Triangle.
That's right. The square hole. And up next, we have the arch.
The arch. The arch.
You guessed it.
The arch.
It goes in the square hole.
God.
Okay. Sometimes finding out this information can be uncomfortable, but it's always better to find out early. People always do the unexpected. So here's a simple process for what we're talking about here is you design your website or your ketchup bottle, you usability test it, and you find out what works and what doesn't. Then you refine it and you test it again until you have happy customers and successful conversions. Yes, it's ketchup, but it works with websites. Actually, it works with pretty much anything. But why does it matter? Okay, this is why. 88% of consumers won't return to a site after a bad experience. Going back to my original question, what did you do the last time you found a website hard to use? I bet you haven't been back. You spend a lot of money as a business driving traffic to your website. But if those visitors get frustrated, annoyed, and they can't, they have to turn the bottle upside down and smack it, and ketchup goes everywhere, then you've lost them. So thinking about your business, what would it mean to you if you could eliminate these pain points, and turn those visitors into loyal customers? Something to think about. So what can you do? Now, this is kind of what I like to aim for, things that just work. Now, whether you agree that Apple, all of their things just work, I'll leave that debate for another day. But the principle stands. We all love it when a website just works. You have, and it's a favorite, websites and apps that you love to use because they're so easy to use. But that doesn't happen by accident. Okay, it really doesn't. So what should you do? Number one, get expert advice. Many common issues can be identified by a usability specialist, someone who lives and breathes usability and sees hundreds of tests, can identify quick wins in a lot of cases. And that's a really good place to start. After that, do usability testing. Right? When you get real people in front of your website trying to carry out real tasks in their own context, you start learning things really quickly. Typically, a usability consultant will work with you to understand what the most important tasks are for your business. Then they'll recruit, say 5 real people who represent your ideal customer or are your ideal customer, and they will attempt those tasks on your site. It's always designed to be as close to real life as possible, using their own computer and device. And then everything's recorded, because seeing is believing. And then you'd also expect a report detailing the issues and recommendations and advice on how to solve those pain points. You get these wonderful aha moments when you go through this. Things have been staring you in the face, but you're too close to it to see. But the big question is, what is the ROI? Why should you spend money on this? There are lots of benefits out there. Things like lowering your customer acquisition costs, increasing sales, leads, and so on. And there are a number of case studies out there that sort of demonstrate that for every £1 spent on improving user experience, brings £100 in return, which is phenomenal. I like to take some inspiration from a couple of these big companies, though. So if we look at Airbnb, they were really struggling. They're about to fail, and then they floated for billions of dollars. They said, when we started seeing how our customers used our service, it was the defining moment that turned the company around. Okay, that's pretty impressive stuff. And of course, Amazon, it wouldn't be, you couldn't have a presentation without a case study on Amazon. But when they first started out, Jeff Bezos funded customer experience over advertising 100 to 0. And they continue to invest heavily. So I figure if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for everyone. And then there's a question here. What would happen if you diverted some of your marketing budget into usability testing, for example? If you think about the lifetime value of your customer, how does that compare against testing? So things to think about. So not everyone is ready to jump straight in, to get this advice and do proper formal usability testing. So here are 3 easy steps that you can do now to start making your website more usable. Number 1, start collecting data. If you haven't got analytics on your website, put them on now. You need to understand what people are doing on your sites. If you're running AdWords or Facebook ads, make sure you've got access to the data and start to look at it and start to understand it. Look at your social media, what's engaging, what's not. Look at the feedback. There are lots of free tools out there to help you with this. One I like is Hotjar, allows you to see a user's click pattern and how they used your site. And the sooner you do this, the better, because then you can start getting that baseline of data and then you can measure improvements in the future. Number 2, talk to your customers. Sounds obvious, but actually there's some simple things. Phone some customers up, ask about their experience. Okay, people will always tell you about what was good and more often what wasn't. Send out a survey, right? Just ask one question. Say, what was the one thing we could improve about our service or our website? Okay, you can do this. You can put a pop-up form on the website or whatever, but start getting that feedback loop. And the third thing is actually go and do some guerrilla testing. This basically means it's crude but helpful. But literally, get your friends and family, sit them down with their own equipment, their own phone or laptop. Ideally, someone who isn't familiar with your website or your business, and just ask them to complete some simple tasks like search, find a product, find contact information. Okay, and enjoy watching what happens. You will learn something. Okay, so those are the 3 things to get you started. And that way you'll start to understand what your customer pain points are, so you can start fixing them and start improving your business. Right, thank you very much for listening. That's my talk on understanding your customers' pain points, and I'm happy to see if there are any questions for me.